Hello, my name is Yogan Naidu. I'm from a company called iDempiere Software Services, and today I will show you some basic movement through the iDempiere windows, icons, etc. Although it's fairly basic in my experience, the basics are required to generate confidence for users to basically tackle more advanced topics within iDempiere. Okay, so in terms of the session today, I'll be covering the various points here. So let's go off and look at the landing page. So typically you are confronted with a user screen like this. You then sign on, and remember me is convenient for users at a particular desktop, and there's not a whole lot of other users at the same desktop, because remember me basically remembers the user details as well as the password, and sometimes that potentially could be a security glitch. Okay, so if your email address is connected to multiple clients, the clients or companies will show down on the drop down. So one email address can access multiple companies, and similarly with roles. Okay. Typically you would confronted with a landing page that looks like this, and if you press on this item, you would see further panels on the left and the left hand side. The beauty with the latest design of iDempiere is these panels are very easy to manipulate and move around. So for example, some users prefer to have just one big screen or landing page with the panels that they're interested in on this page. Let's put them back. So if you're not interested in items, you can just drag them and pop them into the bin. Alternatively, if you want to add on to your favorites, in this particular case, you can basically move them. You can move it into your favorites bin, panel rather. Okay, so let's push this all the way to the left, and let's move on to the menu. So the menu has a whole lot of items, and depending on your role, you would be limited to whatever is on your role. And importantly, there's an icon here which is basically a new record icon. So if you press this, it opens up the sales order window with a brand new with a brand new record. And I have, this menu is fairly busy, so looking for things could be quite confusing at times. This is quite a nice feature whereby to search for particular menu items. So if as you type, it basically distills it to the items that has that string. So in this particular case, it's basically starting off with the letters that you typed in. Okay. Over on the top right hand side, what it's showing me is that there's a user called iDempiere that's logged on to a company or client called Demo, and the branch or organization is Johannesburg, and the role that iDempiere has assumed here is Demo Admin. So it's an admin role. A nice feature is the feedback feature, whereby information can be emailed back to, for example, the iDempiere support personnel. And importantly, it has attachments which basically gives technical information or context information to the support personnel. So you could type in an email here and basically type in your message in the body. Hi. The one thing that one has to remember is whenever you have a text box like this, the only way to go down to the next line is to say Shift Enter. It's something that you got to remember, and it basically applies to all text boxes within iDempiere. You also have the ability to attach to this email, and so if you press the attach, you can basically go off to your desktop and basically choose the file that you want to share with the support personnel. The other important thing is if you have multiple roles and you want to switch between roles, this item there is quite a neat way of basically switching your roles and getting back onto the system, so it's a fairly quick process. Okay, so we've covered the landing page. Now what I would like to move on is a typical window. So if I go into, for example, the sales order, it's basically using me brand new. That's a brand new record. That's how it has been configured. But for teaching purposes, what I want to do is basically show you all the sales order records so we can actually traverse through them. So this information here on the top right hand side is showing you that you're on record 1 out of 13 records in this particular display. Okay, and you would travel from one record to the other by clicking that right arrow, or going back, or going all the way to the end, or all the way to the front. And this particular information here is quite important. If you press it, it basically shows you very detailed auditing. So for example, on this very first line, it's saying that the user iDempiere on this date and time has changed that field to the following values. Okay, very important from an auditing perspective. So if one wants to figure out what happened to a particular document, why it is in a particular state, you can go back and see who did what to the document. So if you look at the current window, you would see there's stars next to certain fields, and those stars is right in the top there, on the right hand side, top right hand side. So those stars basically mean those fields are mandatory for this document, and you won't be able to save the document or complete it if those mandatory fields are not in place. And those that are underscored, underlined, they are documents that you can zoom to. So it's, you see the cursor changes to one that basically means that it's a hyperlink. So if you press it, you can zoom to that excuse me, particular business partner connected to that document. Alternatively, if you press the right arrow, so your right mouse button, you have the ability to zoom into that business partner as well. If I had to do a new record, I want to show you that it is quite easy. So if you're creating a brand new sales order and you don't have a business partner, it's a brand new business partner, this is a good feature where you generate a new record here and basically fill in the fields to cater for this new customer in this case. this icon at the right here, people could get a bit confused. You would need to basically click on it to get where it blows up into another sub window so that you can fill in various address details. Okay, similarly for business partner, let's get back here. Sorry, let's go back to the new ones. For business partner, when you click on the icon on the right of a field, it basically gives you further searching ability. So you can basically search for a particular customer based on these criteria here. The way searching works with iDempiere is a % is a wildcard. That basically means we're only interested in a text called Smith. We don't care what's at the front of it, and so those are records we're interested in. By default, the % is assumed on the at the end. Then you would requery to get the record meeting the search criteria. If you then double click on it or you press the green button, then basically that field will assume that value. Okay, so on the screen I would also like to show that right at the bottom here there's a subtab called Detail Records. You can go into it. If you press it, it basically gives you a panel at the bottom, but to go ahead and edit it, you'd need to either press Edit Record there. Alternatively, you would use the these arrow keys to basically this here goes down to the detail record like that. And typically, what you would see is there's a bit of a breadcrumb here, which is saying that we were in a particular order header record, and now we're looking at the detailed lines associated with that order. Other sub-tabs, if you press the down arrow, will make themselves visible for you to choose if you so require. Okay, to look at a bit of the icons, yeah, some of the icons. So this here is if you just hover your cursor over an icon, it shows you what the icon is all about. In this particular case, it's a new record. Okay, this copy record, quite a useful icon. You know, it's used multiple times by users. So if you press that, what it does is it makes a copy of that record, and it gives you all the information of that record, and you can then go ahead and save it. Okay, importantly to note that what the copy record does is it copies the header but does not copy the detail lines. That's the way it works at the moment. So what you would have to do is copy the header, and then go ahead, once the header is copied, then you use the copy lines to then specify the order that you would like the lines to be copied from. So it's this two-step process if you have header and details. Okay, the attachment documents, very useful as well. And in this particular case, we can see there's an attachment already in this document, and you could have multiple attachments here, and all of them would show as different names. And what's nice as well is it has a viewer, so the generic documents like PDFs and images, etc., would be viewable within the iDempiere attachment screen. If you want to attach further documents, you would then go ahead and click the file upload, which will basically give you access to your machine and any other network resources that you have files located at. Okay, so that's how you would attach. You also have the ability, if you have multiple attachments, the ability to attach certain to delete certain documents. Typically, our clients use this to keep sort of physical or printed documents attached to a particular document. In this particular case, well, not in this case, but in some cases you could have, for example, the actual signed order attached to the sales order. Also, what's very useful is a chat facility. So the chat facility is basically having recorded communication relating to this particular document. In this particular case, it's a sales order. So you could have multiple threads which records which user commented, as well as the date and timestamp of that comment. And so you can hide the threads, and you can have multiple threads, as mentioned. Very useful feature to record communications, and for someone to basically pick up from where that document is left off at. Okay, so another useful feature is the zoom across. So what this button does is, or icon does, is basically gives you the related documents to this document. So in this particular case, we have a shipment and an invoice related to the sales order. So if I had to press on the invoice, it would then zoom into the invoice into that invoice, which is a related document of the sales order. It's useful so that you can look at a particular order and all its related documents at the same time. And then obviously you have a print button, and that print button basically prints a report, or in this it prints a report. And in this particular case, it happens to be the printout for the quotation. Also, what's a nice feature is the ability to then go ahead and send this document as an email attachment to other people. Okay, so we have 13 records here. I want to go quickly into grid view and show you that we can easily export these records by pressing that icon, which is an export icon. And if you untick this, it says you are interested in all the records displayed on the screen. And in this particular case, I'd like to see a spreadsheet. Let's do it again. Spreadsheet of the records, and there you go. So it's a very easy way of exporting records. Also, what's nice about the grid view is you have the ability to customize it to the way you would like it to look, and it's helpful because certain users have different preferences. So you could go into this icon, which is basically customizing the way the grid view looks, and for example, you could take this self-service field and not display it and move it on to the left, and you could actually take a whole range of fields and move them to the left so they won't be displayed. And the save column width, what that does is, if you can actually manipulate the widths of the column, and it'll save that preference for you. So the next time you look at the sales order screen, it will display exactly what you saved for you as the user. And then looking at the search button or the lookup record, you first of all, a common question we get is, documents that have been entered and they're not visible anymore, and that's typically because iDempiere sort of puts them as history records. But to get them back, all you have to do is to use one of these criteria so that you can view those records again. And so this here basically gives you the ability to search for a particular record, as well as there's fields here. If you click on this, it gives you access to other fields that you can basically you can populate to basically search on these criteria. This icon here, you'd recognize it now. It's a new record icon. So if you come to a search screen, you can go immediately into a new record by pressing that icon. Alternatively, if there's nothing populated in these search criteria fields, you could press the tick button and it'll bring up all records related to that document type. To do a more advanced search, you could click on advanced and then create a query of your own. So in this particular case, I want to see use the column account dates, and I'm only interested in account dates greater than January 1st, for example. And then you can go ahead and say you want another search criteria. In this particular case, let's use something quite generic so that it does find some records, like document status is equal to, say, completed. And then you can go ahead and say save the query that you just created, say this here, and go ahead and save it. Okay, so, and if you click on this, it will look at your criteria and search according to that criteria. If you go back and you look at advanced, all your customized searches that you saved, or your customized queries, will be on this drop down. Very, very handy if you're looking for specific records. Okay, so if you go back to the items that we're covering today, so we've done the grid view, the icons, we looked at the search button, so let's go ahead and look at some of the info screens. Let's go into the account info first, and again, a whole lot of search criteria that one could choose. Typically you'd fill in the dates that you want to look at a particular account, and certainly the account itself. So I want to look at data's control as an example, and what's important is that you can further filter it to look at data's control for a particular customer, for particular products, or for a particular job, and that's always useful. Other display criteria or other display fields that you can add on are these ones. You tick them if you require them. Or alternatively, if you want to sort the view out by particular items here, then you can go ahead and sort them out. You can choose the sort criteria that you want to use, and then when you summarize, it basically gives you a total by that field. Okay, so if you say now query that, and this is how the data's control has been debited and credited over time for your particular search criteria, and then it totals it at the bottom for you. So other important things here is that you can export this information if you want to further analyze it and or manipulate it into a spreadsheet. And if you're interested, for example, if you look at those 31,971 and 30 cents, if you want to see what actual document caused that general ledger entry, you can double click on it, whereby it would then take you to the accounting facts record. Basically, iDempiere keeps accounting facts for every general ledger entry, and then you can see it's involving the invoice table. So if you go press that button, then it will basically take you into the invoice itself that basically generated that general ledger entry. So let's go ahead and look at the posted button, and you will see indeed that there's the figure of 31,971 and 30 cents that's been debited to debtors control. So that is the source of what we saw here. Okay. So that's it from an accounts info screen. I would also then like to show you the product info screen. It has its own set of search criteria, and if you just query it, it comes up with all the documents, all the items. In this particular case we have 5 in it, and if you go ahead and basically highlight a particular product, so what it shows you at the bottom panel here is various other information. Let's go up here so you see which product has been selected. In this particular case it's a wedge, so what it's showing you is the availability for the various warehouses related to this particular company, and on-hand value, and what you can promise, etc. And there's other tabs here where you get more information based on that item, so you can get the pricing just by looking at that, or an image if you require that information. So very quickly, if you look at the invoice info screen, again, various other search criteria. If I'm going to look at all the sales transactions, I would have that item tagged. So if I just want to look at the purchase items, you untick it. If I want to look at paid and unpaid, so those are various search criteria that you could use. Or if you're looking for a particular amount of the document, you'd fill in that it must be greater than a certain value or less than a certain value. Okay, and once you have a record here, you can basically go ahead and double click on it. It will then zoom into that particular invoice related to that particular record that was displayed on the info screen. Okay, so that's it. I believe I've covered most of the items listed here, and this is a basic course, a very important aspect of iDempiere training. And until our next session, it's bye from me.